What if I told you that the story of human creation you learned in school is incomplete? That there are ancient texts, much older than the Bible itself, that describe in detail genetic experiments performed by advanced beings from space? Have you ever stopped to wonder why so many cultures around the world speak of gods who descended from the heavens to create or modify humanity? What we're going to explore today isn't just another theory about extraterrestrial visitors. It's a deep investigation into evidence suggesting that our very existence may be the result of deliberate genetic intervention, documented in texts that predate any known religious scripture. An intervention that was later reinterpreted, hidden, and transformed into the religious narratives we know today. Prepare yourself for a journey that will question everything you thought you knew about the origins of humanity. What we'll discover may seem like conspiracy theory to some, but the facts we're going to analyze are based on interpretations of Sumerian texts, unexplained archaeological evidence, and recent genetic discoveries that paint a very different picture of our history. Curiosity about our origins has always driven humanity. But what if the answers were hidden in plain sight, encoded in ancient texts that were deliberately misinterpreted to keep the truth away from public knowledge? When we examine Sumerian clay tablets, we find detailed accounts of beings called the Anunnaki, who allegedly descended from Nibiru, a hypothetical distant planet, to extract gold from Earth. These texts, interpreted by scholars like Zecharia Sitchin, describe not only the arrival of these beings, but also their activities on Earth, including the creation of a hybrid workforce through genetic manipulation of primitive hominid species. The Sumerian texts are explicit in their details according to these interpretations. They speak of Enki and Ninmah, two Anunnaki who supposedly combined their genetic material with that of terrestrial primates to create the Adamu, the first modern human. We're not talking about metaphors or religious symbolism, but descriptions that include details about failed attempts, refinements in the process, and even discussions among the Anunnaki about the ethics of creating a hybrid species. According to these interpretations, the story begins approximately 450,000 years ago, when the Anunnaki would have arrived on Earth facing a crisis on their home planet. Nibiru's atmosphere was supposedly deteriorating, and they needed gold to create a protective layer in their atmosphere. Earth, rich in gold, would have become their source of salvation, but mining required a workforce that was initially provided by the Anunnaki themselves. The texts describe how Anunnaki workers in the mines began to rebel against working conditions. It was then that Enki, the supposed chief scientist of the Anunnaki, proposed a revolutionary solution: create a species of hybrid workers by combining Anunnaki DNA with genetic material from the hominids that already existed on Earth. According to these narratives, the process wasn't simple. The tablets relate multiple failed attempts, malformed creatures that couldn't survive, and constant refinements in technique. Ninmah, the Anunnaki medical specialist who worked together with Enki to perfect the process. They used artificial wombs, techniques we would recognize today as in vitro fertilization and direct genetic manipulation. When they finally achieved success, they created not only the first modern humans, but also established different lineages with specific capabilities. Some lineages were designed for physical work, others for intellectual tasks, and a few were created with special genetic capabilities that allowed them direct communication with the Anunnaki. The mystery deepens when we examine archaeological evidence that some interpret as confirmation of aspects of this narrative. Discoveries in South Africa have revealed extremely ancient gold mining complexes, dating back tens of thousands of years. These sites show evidence of sophisticated extraction methods for their time. Michael Tellinger, a South African researcher, has documented thousands of circular stone ruins in South Africa that he connects to these ancient mining operations. Many of these structures are aligned with specific constellations and show evidence of sophisticated construction. Estimates suggest that some of these structures may be thousands of years old. Even more intriguing is the discovery of artifacts that appear out of place in very ancient geological strata. Metallic objects have been found in coal and rocks of geologically significant ages, although exact dating is often debated in the scientific community. Modern genetics provides evidence that some interpret as support for theories of external intervention. The Human Genome Project has revealed aspects of human DNA that some researchers consider unusual. Geneticist Dr. Francis Crick, co-discoverer of DNA structure, even proposed the theory of directed panspermia due to the complexity of the genetic code. One of the most interesting discoveries is the FOXP2 gene, crucial for human language development. This gene shows significant changes that occurred relatively recently in human evolution, approximately 200,000 years ago. Some researchers consider these changes more rapid than expected through gradual evolution. Dr. David Reich, a Harvard geneticist, discovered evidence of hybridization events in the modern human genome. While he interprets them as crossbreeding with Neanderthals and Denisovans, the genetic patterns show complexities that continue to be studied. Analysis of human mitochondrial DNA reveals that all modern humans descend from a relatively small female population that lived in Africa about 200,000 years ago, known as mitochondrial Eve. The relative lack of genetic diversity compared to other species is an ongoing topic of debate among geneticists. Y chromosome studies show similar patterns. The patrilineal common ancestor of all modern men, known as Y chromosomal Adam, lived in a temporally close period. The synchronicity of these genetic events with Sumerian narratives about the creation of the Adamu is considered intriguing by some researchers. Lloyd Pye, who researched anomalies in the human genome, identified genes that he claimed had no clear predecessors in other species. While his theories are controversial in the mainstream scientific community, they raise questions about gaps in the evolutionary record that merit continued investigation. Ancient religious traditions provide additional context for these narratives. The Book of Enoch, which is not part of the official biblical canon, describes how the Watchers, celestial beings, descended to earth and mingled with the daughters of men. These descriptions include references to advanced knowledge in the creation of hybrids. The text describes how the Watchers taught humans metallurgy, astronomy, mathematics, and other sciences. It also relates how their interference in human development caused problematic consequences, including the birth of giants and other hybrid creatures. The Gnostic texts found at Nag Hammadi offer perspectives on human creation. The Apocalypse of Adam and other texts describe how superior beings altered primitive humanity, endowing it with consciousness and knowledge that other creators subsequently tried to suppress. The Hebrew Bible, when examined in its original language, reveals details that may be lost in translations. The word Elohim, often translated as God, is grammatically plural. References to the sons of God who mingled with the daughters of men appear in Genesis 6. The Garden of Eden narrative gains new interpretations when viewed through this perspective. Adam and Eve may represent the first genetically modified humans placed in a controlled environment for development. The Tree of Knowledge may symbolize information that was initially denied to these first hybrids. The expulsion from paradise could represent the moment when modified humans were integrated into the general population, or when conflicts between factions resulted in the abandonment of initial experimental projects. Archaeologists have discovered evidence of human anatomical variations in multiple cultures around the world. Elongated skulls found in Peru, Malta, Russia, and other locations show characteristics that some researchers consider distinct from typical human anatomy. These skulls have brain volumes larger than the human average and structures that differ from standard human anatomy. Dr. Brian Forster, who studied the Paracas skulls in Peru, conducted analyses that revealed unusual genetic characteristics. The genetic material contains sequences that he claims don't completely correspond to known human populations, although these conclusions are debated in the scientific community. Skeletons of individuals of exceptional stature have been discovered in various parts of the world and documented historically. American newspaper reports from the 19th and early 20th centuries document discoveries of large-stature skeletons in various regions of North America. Oral traditions of Native American tribes speak of races of large-statured people who lived before modern times. These traditions describe how these individuals possessed advanced knowledge and maintained contact with beings who came from the stars. Megalithic sites around the world show evidence of sophisticated construction techniques. Puma Punku in Bolivia contains stone blocks cut with remarkable precision. The stones are cut at complex angles that fit with exactness, and some weigh more than 100 tons. Göbekli Tepe in Turkey dates to approximately 11,600 years ago, but demonstrates astronomical knowledge and construction techniques that some consider advanced for the period. The site was deliberately buried about 8,000 years ago for reasons that remain debated. Submerged structures off Japan, near Yonaguni, and in other locations show evidence of possible human activity that would have existed when these areas were above sea level. Dating of these structures places them in periods prior to known civilizations. Analysis of ancient artifacts reveals technology that appears advanced for their times. The Antikythera mechanism is a Greek mechanical device approximately 2,100 years old that calculates planetary positions with remarkable precision for the period. Optical lenses have been found in contexts that predate their supposed invention by significant periods. Cave paintings at Lascaux, France, and other Paleolithic sites show images that some interpret as representations of flying objects or non-terrestrial beings. While these interpretations are speculative, the artistic sophistication suggests considerable levels of consciousness and knowledge. Ancient Sanskrit texts like the Mahabharata and Ramayana contain descriptions of flying vehicles called vimanas. These descriptions include details about different types of propulsion and operation. Some of the technical details are interpreted by some as consistent with aeronautical engineering principles. Australian Aboriginal oral tradition speaks of sky beings who visited Earth during the dream time. These stories include descriptions of technology, modification of animals and plants, and the creation of hybrids between celestial beings and humans. Ancient African cultures maintain traditions about beings who supposedly influenced primitive humanity. These traditions are found in various cultures around the world, suggesting possible common origin or shared experiences. Evidence suggests that information about these topics may have been deliberately omitted or reinterpreted throughout history. Ancient texts containing scientific knowledge were lost in events like the destruction of the Library of Alexandria. Oral traditions that preserved memories of possible extraterrestrial contact were frequently classified as mythology. The Church removed various texts from the biblical canon, including works that contain detailed descriptions of celestial beings and their interactions with humans. The Book of Enoch, which provides specific accounts of interaction between celestial beings and humans, was excluded from official scriptures. Manuscripts preserved in libraries and private collections frequently contain information that differs from conventional historical narratives. The Book of John, allegedly a very ancient work, describes multiple cycles of human civilization, including periods where humans possessed advanced technology. Symbols and ancient art around the world show patterns that some interpret as evidence of shared knowledge about extraterrestrial contact. Representations of beings with helmet-like objects, flying vehicles, and technology appear in cultures that had no documented contact with each other. Linguistic analysis reveals connections between ancient languages that suggest possible common origin or external influence. Similar root words for concepts like sky, divinity, star, and knowledge appear in languages that developed apparently independently. Discoveries in human population genetics reveal migration and admixture patterns that are complex. Ancient DNA studies show evidence of human populations with distinct genetic characteristics that appear in the archaeological record and then integrate or disappear. Dr. Melba Ketchum conducted controversial DNA studies that she interpreted as evidence of a hybrid species. While her studies are highly debated in the scientific community, they raise questions about human genetic diversity that continue to be investigated. Research in epigenetics reveals that experiences can affect genetic expression in ways that are transmitted to future generations. This suggests that events in primitive human history may have left identifiable marks on our genetic code. Neuroscience studies show that the human brain possesses capabilities that are rarely fully utilized. Some researchers speculate that these capabilities may be remnants of ancient modifications that became dormant or were suppressed. The pineal gland, often referred to as the third eye in esoteric traditions, contains structures that may have functions beyond those currently understood by mainstream science. Some theories suggest that this gland may have been developed for specialized communication functions. Phenomena like savantism and abilities considered psychic may represent activations of latent genetic capabilities. The sudden and seemingly inexplicable nature of these abilities suggests they may be dormant in our genetic code. The discovery of non-coding DNA, previously considered without function, revealed that these sequences may have complex regulatory functions. Some researchers speculate that parts of non-coding DNA may contain information about our origins that we don't completely understand. studies suggest that human DNA may store information in ways we don't yet fully comprehend. If this is true, it's possible that our own genetic code contains records of our history, awaiting sufficient technology to decode them. The question remains, if the Anunnaki really conducted genetic experiments on primitive humanity, where are they now? Some theories suggest they never really left, but remain hidden, continuing to influence human development in subtle ways. Other theories propose that they returned to their place of origin, but left hybrid representatives on Earth to monitor their experiment. This would explain why certain genetic lineages seem to have consistent characteristics in terms of unusual capabilities. The most intriguing possibility is that they programmed our genetic evolution to continue independently, with specific triggers that activate new capabilities at predetermined moments. This would explain why human evolution seems to have accelerated in recent millennia. Modern evidence of UFO sightings and claims of extraterrestrial contacts may represent periodic checks on the progress of their experiment. The elusive nature of these contacts would be consistent with a policy of non-direct interference, allowing humanity to develop naturally within predetermined parameters. Growing awareness about our possible origins may represent part of an original plan. Perhaps we're approaching a point in our evolution where we're ready to know the truth about our creation and assume our intended role in the cosmos. We've reached the end of this deep exploration of one of the most controversial and fascinating theories about our origins. We examined ancient texts describing detailed genetic manipulation, archaeological evidence of apparently advanced technology, genetic discoveries that some interpret as suggestive of external intervention, and consistent cultural traditions about contact with advanced beings. What we discovered are not definitive proofs, but an interesting pattern of evidence suggesting that our history may be more complex than conventionally taught. From Sumerian texts about hybrid creation to modern genetic anomalies that challenge simple evolutionary explanation, the pieces of a fascinating puzzle begin to form. The possibility that we are the result of genetic experiments conducted by an advanced extraterrestrial civilization doesn't diminish our humanity or our value as a species. On the contrary, it suggests that we are part of something greater, connected to a cosmic community that may still be observing our development. If these theories have any basis in reality, they would explain many of the anomalies surrounding our existence. Why are we so different from other terrestrial species? Why do we possess capabilities that seem to exceed basic survival needs? Why do ancient cultures around the world maintain consistent memories about visitors from the stars? Evidence of possible suppression of this information throughout history suggests that powerful forces may have an interest in keeping humanity without knowledge about their true origins. This raises questions about who would benefit from this ignorance and why the truth about our creation would be considered problematic. Perhaps we're entering an era where this suppression is no longer possible. With advances in genetics, archaeology, and global communication, information that was limited for millennia is becoming accessible to the general public. The internet allows independent researchers to share discoveries that could have been suppressed in the past. The question is no longer whether evidence exists, but how to interpret it and what to do with this knowledge. If we are really the result of extraterrestrial genetic experiments, this would fundamentally change our understanding of our function on Earth and our potential future as a species. This exploration raises more questions than answers, but perhaps that's precisely its function. I don't claim we should accept all these theories without questioning, but it's important to recognize that there are significant gaps in our official understanding of our origins that merit serious investigation. What do you think about these possibilities? Does the evidence we explored resonate with your intuition about our true nature as a species? Is there anything in your own experience or knowledge that aligns with these theories about ancient genetic intervention? Curiosity about our origins is one of the most fundamentally human characteristics. Whatever the truth about our creation, it's waiting to be discovered by open minds and courageous spirits willing to question accepted narratives and explore extraordinary possibilities. Keep questioning, keep researching, and stay open to possibilities that transcend conventional explanations. If you want to continue this journey of discovery with us, subscribe to the channel and activate notifications. There are many more mysteries to explore about our true history and our extraordinary potential as a species. Until our next exploration of the secrets that may revolutionize our understanding of who we really are and where we came from. Keep your mind open and your spirit of investigation alive, because the truth may be far more fascinating than we ever imagined.